The entire company fell silent. More than 100 employees stood frozen as the new CEO made his very first announcement. Everyone involved in yesterday's mistake is fired. People burst into tears. Managers begged for another chance. Security guards escorted employees out one after another. Then something unbelievable happened. The cold Korean CEO slowly turned toward a quiet Nigerian cleaner standing alone in the corner. She lowered her head, expecting to lose her job too. Instead, he looked directly into her eyes and said, "You'd stay." The room fell into complete silence. Why would Seoul's coldest billionaire save the one woman everyone else ignored? What no one knew was that months earlier, this Nigerian woman had unknowingly saved his life. And Park Ji-hoon had spent every day searching for her. Welcome to Afrokorea Seoul Stories. If you love heartwarming Afro-Korean romance, unforgettable characters, emotional plot twists, billionaire secrets, and love stories that cross cultures, you found the right place. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new story. Your support helps us bring you more original Afro-Korean love stories every day. Now sit back, relax, and let's begin today's unforgettable journey. The girl everyone overlooked. Before the executives arrived. Before the elevators filled with employees. Before the CEO stepped into the building. A young Nigerian woman was already polishing the marble floors. Her name was Ifeoma Okeke. At 25 years old, Ifeoma possessed a quiet beauty that people often overlooked. She had rich dark brown skin, expressive brown eyes filled with warmth, and natural black coily hair neatly tied into a low bun. Her gentle smile reflected kindness, even after long nights of hard work. Though dressed in a simple blue cleaning uniform, she carried herself with grace and dignity. Most employees never asked her name. To them she was simply the cleaner. But Ifeoma never allowed bitterness to take root in her heart. Every month, she sent most of her salary back to Nigeria to support her widowed mother and help her younger brother complete his education. She believed that honest work, no matter how humble, was something to be proud of. She had no idea that this ordinary morning was about to change her life forever. At that same moment, a sleek black luxury sedan pulled into the underground parking garage. From it stepped Park Ji-hoon. Tall, handsome, and impeccably dressed in a tailored charcoal suit. He was the newly appointed CEO of Mafia Holdings. His sharp jawline, calm brown eyes, and commanding presence made conversations stop wherever he walked. People called him cold. Some even called him heartless. But beneath that calm exterior was a man carrying painful secrets that no one in the company knew. Today, fate was about to bring Park Ji-hoon and Ifeoma Okeke together in a way that would change both of their lives forever. The executive conference room was wrapped in silence. 23 senior executives sat around a polished mahogany table, each one avoiding the eyes of the man seated at its head. Park Ji-hoon calmly closed the financial report in front of him. His face showed no emotion. That frightened everyone even more. He slowly stood and walked toward the floor-to-ceiling glass windows overlooking the Seoul skyline. Without turning around, he asked, "Who approved these contracts?" No one answered. His voice became slightly firmer. "I'll ask one last time. Who approved them?" After several seconds, the chief financial officer slowly rose to his feet. "Sir, we all signed the documents." Ji-hoon nodded. "I know." The room became even quieter. "You signed contracts worth millions. Without verifying the evidence. Without protecting this company." He turned to face them. "My grandfather built Mafia Holdings with honesty. My father expanded it through discipline. I refuse to let corruption destroy everything they sacrificed for." One executive hurriedly stood. "CEO Park, please. Give us another chance." Another lowered his head. "My family depends on this job." A third wiped tears from his eyes. "I've served this company for 24 years. Ji-hoon remained calm. "This is not personal. It is responsibility." He picked up a document from the table. Effective immediately. Everyone involved in these fraudulent approvals is dismissed. The words echoed through the conference room. Some executives collapsed into their chairs. Others stood frozen. Outside the room, whispers spread through every department. The new CEO has fired them. All of them. I've never seen anything like this. Fear swept across the building. Completely unaware of the dramatic meeting upstairs, Ifeoma Okeke quietly continued her work in the main lobby. As she polished the marble floor, she noticed an elderly maintenance worker struggling to push a heavy equipment cart. Without hesitation, she hurried over. "Good morning, sir," she said with a gentle smile. "Please let me help you." The elderly man smiled gratefully. "Thank you, my daughter." Together they pushed the cart down the corridor. Several employees watched from a distance. One receptionist whispered, "She always helps people." Another replied, "I've never heard her complain about anything." When the work was finished, the elderly man looked at Ifeoma with appreciation. "May God bless your kindness." She smiled warmly. "My mother always says kindness costs nothing, but it can change someone's entire day." That exact moment, the conference room doors opened. The dismissed executives slowly walked out carrying cardboard boxes filled with years of memories. Some looked ashamed. Others silently wiped away tears. The atmosphere inside Myri Holdings had completely changed. Moments later, Park Ji-hoon stepped into the hallway. Every employee immediately bowed. "Good morning, sir." Without saying a word, he walked toward the elevator. His eyes stopped on a familiar face. The Nigerian cleaner. She was helping the elderly maintenance worker organize his tools before quietly returning to her cleaning cart. There was no audience, no manager watching, no reward waiting for her. She was simply being kind. Ji-hoon unconsciously slowed his steps. For a brief moment, their eyes met. Ifeoma politely bowed. "Good morning, sir." Ji-hoon gave a slight nod before entering the elevator. The doors slowly closed. But he couldn't shake the feeling that he had seen those warm, compassionate eyes before. On a day he would never forget. A memory buried deep inside his heart was beginning to awaken. Neither of them realized. This simple exchange would become the first step toward a love story that would change both their lives forever. The elevator doors closed. For the first time in years, Park Ji-hoon stood completely still. His assistant, Mr. Kim, noticed something unusual. "Sir, is everything all right?" Ji-hoon didn't answer immediately. Instead, he continued staring at the elevator doors as if he could still see the Nigerian cleaner standing outside. Finally he spoke. "Find out who she is." Mr. Kim looked surprised. "The cleaner, sir." "Yes. I want her name, her employee record, and how long she has worked here." "Yes, sir." Meanwhile, Ifeoma had no idea that the CEO had just asked someone to investigate her. She quietly returned to her duties, humming a soft gospel song her mother used to sing while cooking breakfast back home in Nigeria. Whenever she felt lonely in Seoul, that song reminded her that she was never truly alone. As she finished cleaning the executive hallway, her phone vibrated gently. It was a message from her younger brother. "Big sis, I passed my exams. Thank you for paying my school fees. Mom is crying because she's so happy. We all miss you." Ifeoma stopped walking. A smile slowly spread across her face. Then tears filled her eyes. Everything she had sacrificed, every extra shift, every sleepless night, suddenly felt worthwhile. She quietly whispered, "Thank you, Lord." She carefully wiped away her tears before anyone could notice and continued working. Several floors above, Mr. Kim returned with a file. He placed it on Ji-hoon's desk. "Sir, her name is Ifeoma Okeke." Ji-hoon opened the file. Age, 25. Nationality, Nigerian. Position, cleaning staff. Employment, 1 year and 8 months. Excellent attendance. No disciplinary record. Outstanding performance reviews. Ji-hoon nodded silently. Then one photograph attached to the file caught his attention. His eyes widened. Suddenly, the memory returned. 8 months earlier, it had been one of the coldest nights of winter. Heavy snow covered the streets of Seoul. Ji-hoon had secretly left an important business dinner, exhausted after learning about another betrayal inside the company. He wanted a few moments alone, without bodyguards, without assistance, without anyone recognizing him. As he crossed a quiet street, a speeding delivery motorcycle lost control on the icy road. Everything happened in seconds. Ji-hoon never saw it coming, but someone else did. A young Nigerian woman dropped the shopping bag she was carrying. Without thinking about her own safety, she ran into the street. "Watch out!" She shoved Ji-hoon with all her strength. The motorcycle sped past them, missing him by only a few centimeters. Both of them fell onto the snow-covered pavement. Ji-hoon hit his head. Everything became blurry. Before he lost consciousness, he remembered only one thing. A pair of warm brown eyes filled with concern. A gentle voice speaking in accented Korean. "Please stay awake." When he woke up in the hospital the next morning, the woman was gone. No name, no phone number, nothing. Security cameras had failed because of the snowstorm. For 8 long months, he had searched for the stranger who had saved his life. Today, without realizing it, she had been standing only a few steps away from him. Back in his office, Ji-hoon slowly closed the file. A rare smile appeared on his face. It was small, almost invisible, but it was the first genuine smile anyone had seen from him in a very long time. He looked at Mr. Kim. "I've finally found her." Mr. Kim blinked in surprise. "Sir, you know Miss Ifeoma?" Ji-hoon looked out at the Seoul skyline. "No. I owe her my life." Far below, Ifeoma continued polishing the lobby floor, completely unaware that the man whose life she had once saved had finally remembered her. And before the sun set that evening, Park Ji-hoon would make a decision that would bring their two worlds together forever. The elevator doors closed. Park Ji-hoon would make a decision that would bring their two worlds together forever. The afternoon sun streamed through the towering glass windows of Myri Holdings. Employees hurried from one meeting to another. Phones rang endlessly. Printers hummed. The company had returned to work. But no one had forgotten the shocking dismissals that morning. Whispers still echoed through every department. "The new CEO is ruthless. They say he doesn't trust anyone. I heard he hasn't smiled in years." On the ground floor, Ifeoma quietly finished cleaning the reception area. She glanced at the old clock on the wall. It was finally lunchtime. She walked to a small staff break room tucked away in a quiet corner of the building. Inside, only a few cleaners were eating. Ifeoma opened her worn lunch bag. Inside was a simple meal she had cooked the night before: rice, vegetables, and a small piece of grilled chicken. Before taking her first bite, she bowed her head. "Thank you, Lord, for providing for me and my family. Please continue to guide my steps." She smiled and began to eat. Just then, an elderly woman entered the break room carrying a tray. She wore a simple uniform, and her silver hair was neatly tied back. Looking around, she realized every seat was occupied. Without hesitation, Ifeoma stood. "Ma'am, please take my seat." The elderly woman looked surprised. "But where will you sit?" "I'll be fine," Ifeoma replied with a gentle smile. "Please." The woman smiled warmly. "Thank you, my dear." Instead of walking away, Ifeoma sat on a nearby stool and continued eating happily. She never asked who the woman was. She simply believed that showing respect to elders was the right thing to do. The two women began talking. "You are not Korean," the elderly woman observed kindly. "No, ma'am. I'm from Nigeria. You must miss home." Ifeoma smiled softly. "Every single day." "What keeps you here?" "My family." She took a slow breath. "My mother sacrificed everything to raise us. Now it's my turn to support her. The elderly woman's eyes softened. And are you happy? Ifeoma thought for a moment before answering. Life isn't always easy. But I choose gratitude over complaints. As long as my family is healthy and I can work honestly, I believe tomorrow will be better. The elderly woman nodded quietly. You have a beautiful heart. Ifeoma laughed shyly. My mother deserves the credit. Neither of them noticed. Standing outside the slightly open door, Park Ji-hoon had heard every word. He hadn't intended to stop. But the moment he heard Ifeoma's voice, he found himself listening. He watched as she shared half of her meal with another cleaner whose lunch had accidentally fallen onto the floor. Without hesitation, without expecting anything in return, Ji-hoon lowered his eyes. The image reminded him of the snowy night when she had risked her own life to save a complete stranger. Some people were kind only when others were watching. Ifeoma. She was the same person wherever she went. At that very moment, Mr. Kim approached quietly. Sir, the board members are waiting. Ji-hoon didn't move. Instead, he looked once more toward the break room. Then he spoke calmly. Tomorrow morning, I want Miss Ifeoma transferred to the executive floor. Mr. Kim's eyes widened. Sir. The executive floor? Yes. And make sure no one knows I gave the order. Understood. As Ji-hoon walked away, he made another silent promise to himself. He would repay the woman who had once saved his life. But deep inside, he had no idea that what began as gratitude was slowly becoming something much deeper. And somewhere else in Seoul, a former executive who had been dismissed that morning clenched his fists in anger. They think they can throw me away. He slammed his hand against the table. If Park Ji-hoon wants a war, I'll give him one. Little did anyone know, a dangerous enemy had just made his first move. And Ifeoma was about to be caught in the middle. The next morning, Ifeoma arrived at Myri Holdings 30 minutes earlier than usual. The sunrise painted the Seoul skyline in soft shades of orange and gold as she quietly entered through the staff entrance. Oh! She greeted the security guards with a warm smile. Good morning. Good morning, Miss Ifeoma, they replied cheerfully. She pushed her cleaning cart toward the storage room, unaware that today would be unlike any other. Just as she reached for her supplies, the head of facilities hurried toward her. Miss Ifeoma. Yes, sir. I've been looking for you. A puzzled expression crossed her face. Is everything all right? He smiled. From today, you'll no longer be cleaning the general office floors. Her heart skipped a beat. Had she made a mistake? Was she being dismissed? She swallowed nervously. Sir, have I done something wrong? The manager quickly shook his head. No, not at all. In fact, you've been transferred. Transferred. Yes. Beginning this morning, you'll be responsible for maintaining the executive floor. Ifeoma blinked in surprise. The executive floor. That's correct. She had heard stories about that floor. Only senior executives, directors, and the CEO had offices there. Ordinary employees rarely stepped inside. She bowed respectfully. Thank you, sir. I'll do my best. The manager smiled. I know you will. A few minutes later, the elevator doors opened onto the top floor. Everything looked different. The marble floors gleamed. Fresh flowers decorated every hallway. The atmosphere was peaceful and elegant. Ifeoma took a slow breath. This place is beautiful. She carefully began her work, making sure every surface shone perfectly. Every movement reflected the pride she took in even the smallest task. She didn't realize, behind the slightly open blinds of the corner office, someone was quietly watching. Park Ji-hoon. He wasn't watching to judge her work. He was watching to understand the woman who had risked her own life for a stranger. He noticed how she straightened a painting that had tilted slightly on the wall. How she carefully watered a plant whose leaves had begun to droop. How she greeted every employee with the same gentle smile, whether they were a director or a delivery worker. There was no pretending, no performance. This was simply who Ifeoma was. Ji-hoon found himself smiling again. Mr. Kim noticed. Sir. Ji-hoon looked away from the window. Yes. I've worked with you for 6 years. I've never seen you smile this often. Ji-hoon remained silent for a moment. Then he answered quietly. Some people remind us that kindness still exists. Across the city, former executive director Kong sat inside a luxurious private office. His face burned with anger. He slammed a folder onto the table. So, the new CEO thinks he can destroy my career. One of his associates leaned forward. What are your orders, sir? Director Kang's eyes narrowed. Dig into Park Ji-hoon's life. I want to know everyone close to him. His friends. His family. And anyone he seems interested in. The associate nodded. Yes, sir. A cruel smile slowly appeared on Kang's face. Everyone has a weakness. We just have to find his. That very moment, his investigator received a photograph. It showed Park Ji-hoon standing near the executive floor corridor. His eyes weren't on the executives. They were quietly following a young Nigerian cleaner. The investigator smiled. I think we've found her. Far above, Ifeoma continued dusting the bookshelves, completely unaware that she had just become the target of a dangerous man seeking revenge against the CEO. Sometimes, the greatest danger comes not from the enemies you know, but from the enemies who know your name before you even know theirs. The executive floor was unusually quiet. Most of the directors had left for an emergency board meeting across the city. Only a few assistants remained, typing quietly behind their desks. Ifeoma gently dusted the shelves outside the CEO's office. She checked her work twice before moving on. She believed that if a job was worth doing, it was worth doing well. Just as she reached for her cleaning cart, the office door opened. Park Ji-hoon stepped out. She immediately bowed respectfully. Good afternoon, sir. For a brief moment, neither of them spoke. Ji-hoon looked at her carefully. The same warm brown eyes. The same calm smile. There was no doubt anymore. She was the woman who had saved his life. Miss Ifeoma. She looked surprised. He knows my name. Yes, sir. I've noticed your work. Thank you for taking such good care of this floor. Ifeoma smiled politely. Thank you, sir. I'm only doing my job. Ji-hoon shook his head gently. No. You do more than your job. You care. The words caught her off guard. No executive had ever spoken to her like that. She lowered her eyes respectfully. My mother taught me that whatever your hands find to do, do it with all your heart. Ji-hoon smiled faintly. Your mother raised you well. Before Ifeoma could respond, a young executive rushed down the hallway carrying a stack of files. He was so distracted that he didn't notice a small puddle left behind after another cleaner had mopped the floor. His foot slipped. The files flew into the air. Without thinking, Ifeoma dropped her cloth and reached out. She caught the young man before he hit the marble floor. The documents scattered everywhere. Are you all right? She asked. The young executive nodded, embarrassed. Why yes, thank you. Together, Ifeoma knelt and gathered every file. She carefully arranged them in the correct order before handing them back. Please be careful. The young man bowed repeatedly. Thank you so much. After he hurried away, Ji-hoon quietly watched everything. She hadn't hesitated. She hadn't looked around to see if anyone was watching. Helping people simply came naturally to her. His respect for her grew even deeper. Later that afternoon, Mr. Kim entered the CEO's office. Sir, your next meeting begins in 10 minutes. Ji-hoon nodded. Then he asked a question that surprised his assistant. Does Miss Ifeoma eat lunch alone? Mr. Kim checked his notes. Most days, yes. Ji-hoon looked thoughtful. Make sure the staff cafeteria improves the meals for all cleaning and maintenance employees. Mr. Kim blinked. For everyone, sir. Yes. If conditions improve for only one person, people will ask questions. But if everyone benefits, no one will feel overlooked. Mr. Kim smiled. I understand. For the first time, he realized his CEO wasn't simply trying to repay a debt. He genuinely cared about treating people fairly. At evening, as Ifeoma prepared to leave work, she noticed something unusual. The cafeteria was serving a much better dinner than usual. Fresh fruit, hot soup, better quality rice. Even the older cleaners looked surprised. One of them laughed happily. I wonder who made this happen. Another smiled. Whoever it was. May God bless them. Ifeoma smiled quietly. She had no idea that just a few floors above, a man who owed her his life had made that decision. And although neither of them knew it yet, their hearts were slowly beginning to move toward each other. But across the city, Director Kong received another report. He stared at the photographs of Ifeoma. Then he whispered with a cold smile. So, you're the woman the great Park Ji-hoon is watching. He slowly closed the file. Let's see how long your smile lasts. A dangerous game had begun. And Ifeoma didn't even know she was one of the players. The following Monday morning, a gentle breeze swept through the streets of Seoul as employees streamed into Myri Holdings. Inside the executive floor, Ifeoma had already finished cleaning the reception lounge. She carefully arranged fresh white lilies on the center table before stepping back with a satisfied smile. Just then, Mr. Kim approached her. Miss Ifeoma. She bowed politely. Good morning, sir. I have something for you. He handed her a neatly wrapped gift box. Ifeoma looked confused. For me? Yes. She hesitated before accepting it. Who sent it? Mr. Kim paused for a moment. It came from the management office. Ifeoma looked at the elegant box in her hands. Slowly she opened it. Inside was a beautiful wristwatch. Simple. Elegant. Far more expensive than anything she had ever owned. The cleaners nearby gasped. It's beautiful. You should keep it. You deserve it. But instead of smiling, Ifeoma quietly closed the box. She handed it back to Mr. Kim. I'm sorry, sir. Mr. Kim looked surprised. You don't like it? She shook her head gently. It's very beautiful. But I can't accept it. Why? She smiled politely. My parents taught me never to receive expensive gifts unless I know why they are being given. I haven't done anything special. I'm simply doing my job. If I accept this, people may think I expect favors. I don't want anyone to misunderstand my work. The hallway fell silent. Several employees stared at her in disbelief. Most people would have accepted such a gift without asking questions. But Ifeoma politely refused it. Mr. Kim slowly nodded. I understand. I'll return it. As he walked away, he couldn't hide his admiration. Inside the CEO's office, Mr. Kim placed the unopened gift on Ji-hoon's desk. Sir. She refused it. Ji-hoon looked up. Refused? Yes. She said she couldn't accept expensive gifts without knowing the reason. And she doesn't want anyone to think she's receiving special treatment. For several seconds, Ji-hoon said nothing. A slow smile appeared on his face. That sounds exactly like her. He wasn't disappointed. If anything, his respect for Ifeoma grew even stronger. Money couldn't impress her. Kindness couldn't be bought. She was different. Very different. That afternoon, heavy rain began falling across Seoul. Employees rushed toward the parking garage carrying umbrellas. Ifeoma stood quietly beneath the building's entrance. She looked at the dark sky and smiled to herself. I guess I'm getting wet today. She had forgotten her umbrella. Just as she prepared to step into the rain, a black umbrella appeared above her. She looked up. Standing beside her was Park Ji-hoon. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Ji-hoon calmly said, You'll catch a cold. Ifeoma smiled awkwardly. It's all right, sir. I don't live very far. He extended the umbrella toward her. Take it. She immediately shook her head. No, sir. You'll need it. I'll manage. Ji-hoon couldn't help but smile. Even now, she was thinking about someone else before herself. Without another word, he opened the umbrella wider. Then we'll walk to the gate together. Ifeoma's eyes widened. With you, sir? He nodded once. Yes. Employees standing inside the lobby watched in complete shock. Kulta, walking beside a Nigerian cleaner, sharing the same umbrella. Whispers spread instantly. Is that really CEO Park? I've never seen him do that for anyone. What is happening? Neither Ji-hoon nor Ifeoma paid attention to the whispers. They simply walked through the rain, side by side. For the first time, neither of them felt like a CEO or a cleaner. They were just two people, taking the same path. But from a black sedan parked across the street, a hidden camera quietly captured everything. Blick, blick, blick. Director Kong smiled as he looked at the photographs. Perfect. Now, let's see what happens when the whole company starts talking. The rain continued to fall, completely unaware that a simple walk beneath one umbrella was about to become the beginning of a dangerous rumor. By 8 o'clock the next morning, everyone at Myri Holdings was talking about the same thing. Not about the executives who had been fired. Not about the company's latest business deal. But about a single photograph. The image showed CEO Park Ji-hoon and Ifeoma Okeke walking beneath one black umbrella. No one knew who had taken it. No one knew how it had spread. Somehow, almost every employee had seen it. The whispers grew louder. Did you see the picture? Why would the CEO walk with a cleaner? Could they know each other? I've never even seen him share an elevator with another employee. Unfortunately, rumors have a way of reaching innocent people first. As Ifeoma entered the staff changing room, the conversation suddenly stopped. Several cleaners looked at her. One smiled politely. Another looked away. But a younger cleaner folded her arms. So, I guess we've been worrying for nothing. Ifeoma frowned. I'm sorry. The woman forced a smile. When the CEO likes you, life must be easy. The room fell silent. Ifeoma immediately understood what she meant. She took a slow breath before answering calmly. The CEO was simply being kind because it was raining. Nothing more. The woman shrugged. If that's what you say. Ifeoma didn't argue. She quietly changed into her uniform and walked out. Her mother had always told her, never waste your peace trying to silence every rumor. Oh, the words hurt. On the executive floor, Mr. Kim entered the CEO's office carrying a tablet. Sir, the photograph has spread throughout the company. Ji-hoon looked at the screen. His expression remained calm. I expected this. Should we issue a statement? Ji-hoon slowly shook his head. No. The truth doesn't become false simply because people gossip. Mr. Kim nodded. But I'm worried about Miss Ifeoma. Ji-hoon's face became thoughtful. So am I. That afternoon, Ifeoma was cleaning the company library. It was one of her favorite places. The quiet reminded her of the small library she had visited during her university days in Nigeria. As she carefully arranged books on the shelves, she heard footsteps behind her. She turned. It was Park Ji-hoon. She immediately bowed. Good afternoon, sir. Ji-hoon noticed something different. Her usual bright smile seemed smaller. Were the rumors difficult today? Ifeoma looked surprised. You know about them. He nodded. I'm sorry. She quickly shook her head. No, sir. You have nothing to apologize for. After a brief silence, she smiled gently. My mother always says, if people are talking about you, let your character answer instead of your mouth. Ji-hoon looked at her with admiration. You always remember your mother's advice. Ifeoma laughed softly. She gave me enough wisdom for a lifetime. For the first time, Ji-hoon laughed too. It wasn't loud. It lasted only a second. But it was real. Outside the library, two employees happened to walk past. They stopped in complete disbelief. Did the CEO just laugh? I've worked here for 5 years. I've never seen that before. Across the city, Director Kong sat in his office studying another report. One of his men entered. Sir, the rumor is spreading. Kong smiled coldly. Good. But they still trust each other. The man nodded. Yes. Kong slowly stood and walked toward the window. Then it's time for the next step. He turned with an icy expression. If rumors can't separate them, we'll create a problem that can. A dangerous plan had already begun. And this time, Ifeoma would be the one forced to pay the price. The following morning, Myri Holdings buzzed with unusual tension. Employees moved through the hallways more quietly than usual. Something had happened. Something serious. As Ifeoma pushed her cleaning cart toward the executive floor, she noticed small groups of workers whispering. They would glance at her, then quickly look away. A strange feeling settled in her heart. What is going on? She whispered to herself. She reached the executive floor just as Mr. Kim hurried out of the CEO's office. His normally calm face looked troubled. When he saw Ifeoma, he stopped. Miss Ifeoma. Yes, sir. I need to ask you something. She nodded respectfully. Of course. Were you in the CEO's office after 6 o'clock yesterday evening? She looked confused. No, sir. I finished cleaning before 5:30 and left shortly after. Mr. Kim studied her face. He believed she was telling the truth. Oh, he had to do his job. I'm sorry, but a confidential company file has disappeared. Ifeoma's eyes widened. Disappeared? Yes. It contains information about an important international business agreement. She immediately shook her head. I've never even touched the CEO's desk. I understand. But because you cleaned the executive floor yesterday, everyone who had access will be questioned. Ifeoma took a deep breath. I understand, sir. I'll answer any questions you have. 30 minutes later, 5 employees sat inside the company's investigation room. An executive assistant, 2 security officers, a maintenance supervisor, and Ifeoma. Each person answered the same questions. Each person insisted they knew nothing. When it was Ifeoma's turn, the investigator looked at her. Miss Okeke, have you ever opened the CEO's office drawers? No, sir. Have you ever copied company documents? Never. Did anyone ask you to enter the office after working hours? No. Her answers never changed. She remained calm, honest, respectful. Yet outside the room, the rumors became even worse. I heard the cleaner is being investigated. They say confidential documents are missing. Maybe that's why the CEO was so kind to her. Maybe she took advantage of his trust. Every careless word spread faster than the truth. Inside his office, Park Ji-hoon listened to the investigation update. One director spoke firmly. Sir, we must consider every possibility. Another added. She had access to the executive floor. Ji-hoon calmly placed his pen on the desk. Ifeoma Okeke did not steal those files. The room fell silent. One director frowned. Sir, the investigation isn't finished. Ji-hoon's voice remained steady. I know, but I know her character. Another director asked cautiously. How can you be so certain? Ji-hoon looked directly at them. Because a person who risks her own life to save a stranger doesn't risk her integrity to steal from him. No one in the room understood what he meant. Only Mr. Kim knew the truth. Ji-hoon had never forgotten the snowy night that Ifeoma had saved his life. Late that evening, the investigation ended for the day. No evidence had been found against anyone. As Ifeoma gathered her belongings to go home, she quietly walked out of the building. She tried to stay strong, but the accusations weighed heavily on her heart. She sat alone on a small bench near the company garden. She looked up at the evening sky. Lord, I came to this country to work honestly. If I've done nothing wrong, please let the truth come to light. A gentle breeze passed through the trees. She wiped away a single tear before standing. Just as she turned to leave, a familiar voice called softly behind her. Miss Ifeoma. She looked back. It was Park Ji-hoon. He walked toward her, his expression calm but sincere. Without saying another word, he handed her a small paper cup of hot tea. I thought you might need this. For a few seconds, neither of them spoke. Then Ji-hoon looked her in the eyes and said, I don't know what tomorrow will bring, but I want you to remember one thing. I believe you. The words were simple, but after a day filled with suspicion and painful whispers, they meant everything. For the first time since the investigation had begun, Ifeoma felt hope return to her heart. She smiled through her tears. Thank you, sir. Watching from the shadows beyond the garden, a man quietly lowered his camera. He smiled to himself. Director Kang's plan was unfolding exactly as he had hoped, but he had made one mistake. He believed he could break Ifeoma's spirit. He didn't realize her greatest strength wasn't her job. It was her unshakable character. And soon, the truth would begin fighting back. The next morning, dark clouds hung over Seoul. Inside Myri Holdings, the atmosphere was heavier than ever. No one laughed. No one chatted in the hallways. Everyone was waiting for the result of the investigation. Had someone really stolen the confidential file? Or had an innocent person become the target? At exactly 9 o'clock, Park Ji-hoon entered the executive boardroom. Every director immediately stood. Good morning, sir. He acknowledged them with a slight nod before taking his seat. Mr. Kim stepped forward. Sir, our IT department has recovered additional CCTV footage. The room became silent. One director leaned forward. You found new footage? Yes. It came from a backup security server that wasn't checked yesterday. Park Ji-hoon's expression remained calm. Play it. The lights dimmed. The security video appeared on the large screen. Everyone watched carefully. The footage showed Ifeoma cleaning the executive floor exactly as scheduled. She dusted the shelves. She emptied the waste bins. She mopped the hallway. Then she politely greeted an executive assistant before leaving. She never entered the CEO's private office. She never touched his desk. She never even walked near the cabinet where the confidential file had been kept. The timestamp confirmed everything. She had left the floor nearly 30 minutes before the file disappeared. The room fell silent. One director lowered his head. So, it wasn't her. Another director sighed deeply. We judged her too quickly. Park Ji-hoon slowly stood. His voice was calm but firm. I told you yesterday. Character matters. You investigated Miss Ifeoma because your evidence required it. That was your responsibility. But from this moment, no employee under my leadership will be condemned without proof. Everyone lowered their heads. No one dared to argue. Ifeoma continued her work, completely unaware that her name had just been cleared. She was watering the flowers near the reception area when Mr. Kim approached her. He smiled warmly. Miss Ifeoma. He turned. Yes, sir. I have good news. The CCTV footage has cleared you completely. For a moment, she couldn't speak. You mean? The investigation is over. Mr. Kim nodded. Yes. And the CEO has officially confirmed that you are innocent. Tears filled her eyes. She quietly whispered, Thank you, Lord. She wasn't celebrating because she had won. She was grateful because the truth had finally been revealed. Later that afternoon, an announcement was made throughout the company. Attention all employees. The internal investigation has concluded. Miss Ifeoma Okeke has been completely cleared of all suspicion. We thank all staff for their cooperation. The announcement echoed through every department. Employees exchanged embarrassed glances. Some remembered the rumors they had spread. Others felt ashamed for believing them. The young cleaner who had mocked Ifeoma walked toward her during lunch. She lowered her head. Miss Ifeoma. I'm sorry. I believed the rumors. I shouldn't have. Fioma smiled gently. It's all right. We all make mistakes. The young woman looked surprised. You're not angry. Fioma shook her head. My mother always says, forgiveness gives peace to the person who forgives. The young cleaner smiled through tears. Thank you. From across the cafeteria, Park Ji-hoon watched the exchange. He noticed something remarkable. Even after being falsely accused, Ifeoma carried no bitterness. He chose compassion. That quiet strength touched his heart more deeply than words ever could. But across the city, Director Kong slammed his fist onto his desk. What do you mean she was cleared? His investigator swallowed nervously. The backup CCTV exposed everything. Kang's face darkened with anger. So, the simple plan failed. He walked to the window overlooking Seoul. His reflection stared back at him. If lies couldn't destroy her, then we'll use something much more powerful. He slowly smiled. Fear. Far away. Neither Park Ji-hoon nor Ifeoma realized that the danger surrounding them had only just begun. The battle was no longer about a missing file. It had become personal. And Director Kong was prepared to cross every line to get his revenge. 2 days passed peacefully. The rumors faded. The investigation was over. Employees slowly returned to their normal routines. Sometimes is only the silence before a storm. That Friday evening, most employees had already gone home. The towering offices of Myri Holdings gradually became quiet as lights switched off one floor after another. Fioma checked the time. 8:15 p.m. She had stayed behind to help another cleaner who had suddenly fallen ill. Get some rest, she had told her colleague with a smile. I'll finish this section. No. She was finally done. She changed into her simple cream-colored sweater, dark blue jeans, and white sneakers. She picked up her small handbag and quietly left the building. The streets of Seoul were alive with glowing neon lights, buses, and people hurrying home after work. Fioma loved walking. Gave her time to think. As she crossed a quiet side street, she noticed something strange. A step behind her. She stopped. The footsteps stopped too. She turned around. No one. Maybe I'm imagining it, she whispered. She continued walking. A few moments later, the footsteps returned. Low, steady, following her. This time, her heartbeat quickened. She looked over her shoulder. A man wearing a black baseball cap stood across the street. The moment their eyes met, he looked away. Fioma felt uneasy. She quickened her pace. So did the man. Inside a black luxury sedan, Park Ji-hoon was returning from a business dinner. As the car approached an intersection, he glanced out of the window. Something caught his attention. A familiar figure. Ifeoma. She was walking alone. But she wasn't alone. Ji-hoon's sharp eyes immediately noticed the man following her from a distance. His expression changed instantly. Mr. Kim. Yes, sir. Stop the car. The driver immediately pulled over. Before anyone could react, Ji-hoon stepped out. He crossed the street quickly. Ifeoma had almost reached the entrance to the subway station when she heard someone call her name. Miss Ifeoma. He turned. CEO Park. Before she could ask why he was there, Ji-hoon quietly stepped beside her. Without looking at her, he said calmly, "Keep walking." She noticed something unusual in his voice. "Sir, what's wrong? Don't turn around. There is someone behind us." Her heart skipped a beat. She wanted to look, but she trusted him. Together, They continued walking toward a busy convenience store filled with customers. The mysterious man slowed down. Seeing Ji-hoon beside her, he hesitated, then quietly disappeared into the crowd. Only then did Ji-hoon stop. He looked around carefully before speaking. "Are you all right?" Fioma nodded slowly. I think so." She took a deep breath. "I thought someone was following me." "You were right." For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Ji-hoon looked at her seriously. "From today, you will not leave the office alone after dark." Fioma immediately shook her head. "Oh no, sir. I don't want to cause you any trouble." He looked directly into her eyes. "This isn't trouble. This is your safety." She hesitated. "I don't want people to misunderstand." Ji-hoon's expression softened. "Sometimes, protecting someone is more important than explaining yourself to the world." His words stayed with her. For the first time, she realized that the cold CEO wasn't protecting her because of guilt. He was protecting her because he genuinely cared. Neither of them noticed. From a nearby rooftop, camera lens slowly lowered. The man in the black cap made a phone call. "Boss!" The CEO intervened. A cold voice answered from the other end. "Good. That means we were right. The Nigerian woman is important to him." Director Kong ended the call with a satisfied smile. He finally had the confirmation he needed. And from that moment on, Fioma was no longer just an innocent employee. She had become the key to his revenge. To be continued. At night, after making sure Fioma safely entered her apartment building, Park Ji-hoon remained inside his car. He didn't tell the driver to leave. He stared quietly at the entrance until the lights in her apartment came on. Only then did he breathe a sigh of relief. Mr. Kim, sitting beside him, noticed the concern on his face. "Sir, I've never seen you this worried." Ji-hoon looked out of the window. "I almost lost my life once because someone chose to save me." He paused. "I won't stand by and watch that same person fall into danger." Mr. Kim nodded respectfully. "I'll arrange discreet security." Ji-hoon immediately replied. No bodyguards following her openly. I don't want her to feel like a prisoner. Have plainclothes security officers keep watch from a distance. They are to protect her, without interfering with her life." "Understood, sir." Inside her small apartment, Fioma carefully removed her shoes and sat on the edge of her bed. The room was modest. Small kitchen, single bed, a bookshelf filled with English novels and a well-worn Bible. On the wall hung a framed family photograph. Her mother, her younger brother, her little sister. She picked up the photograph and smiled. "I miss all of you." Just then her phone rang. It was a video call from Nigeria. Her mother's cheerful face appeared on the screen. "My daughter." Fioma's face immediately brightened. "Mama, how are you?" "I'm fine. And you?" "I'm doing well." Her younger brother suddenly leaned into the camera. "Big sister, I got my internship." Fioma clapped happily. "Really? Congratulations. We're so proud of you." Her little sister laughed. "Mama has been dancing since morning." Everyone burst into laughter. For a few precious minutes, the loneliness of living in another country disappeared. Then her mother looked at her carefully. "My daughter, you look tired." Fioma hesitated. She didn't want to worry her family. "It's just work, Mama." Her mother smiled gently. "Remember, no job is worth losing your peace. And never stop being the kind-hearted girl we raised." Fioma nodded. "I won't." She ended the call with tears in her eyes. Her mother's words always gave her strength. The next morning, Park Ji-hoon arrived at the office earlier than usual. As he walked through the executive floor, he noticed something unusual. A small flower vase near the reception desk had tipped over during the night. Water had spilled onto the polished floor. Before any employee arrived, Ifioma had already cleaned it. Fresh flowers now stood neatly arranged in the vase. She smiled as she stepped back to admire her work. Ji-hoon quietly watched from a distance. "You always notice the smallest details." Startled, Ifioma turned around. "Good morning, sir." "Good morning." She bowed politely. "I hope everything looks all right." Ji-hoon glanced around. "It looks better than all right. It feels welcoming." Ifioma smiled modestly. "I believe people work better in a place that feels cared for." For a moment, Ji-hoon simply looked at her. Then he asked, "Miss Ifioma, do you ever regret coming to Korea?" She thought carefully before answering. "There were days I cried. There were days I wanted to give up. But every challenge has taught me something." She smiled softly. "If I had stayed where life was comfortable, I might never have discovered how strong God created me to be." Her answer stayed with Ji-hoon long after she returned to her work. Neither of them realized. A man was watching from the parking garage. Director Kang's investigator lowered his binoculars. He made another phone call. "Boss, they're getting closer." Director Kang's voice turned icy. "Then it's time. No more rumors. No more watching. I want the CEO to make a choice. The company, or the Nigerian woman." A dangerous plan had been set in motion. One that would force Park Ji-hoon to risk everything he had spent his entire life building. And before the week was over, Myri Holdings would face a crisis unlike anything it had ever seen. Monday morning, Myri Holdings was busier than ever. Reporters waited outside the building. Foreign investors had arrived from Japan and Singapore for an important partnership meeting. Every department worked with perfect precision. On the executive floor, Ifioma quietly watered the flowers outside the boardroom. She stepped back and smiled. "Perfect." Just then Mr. Kim approached. "Miss Ifioma." "Yes, sir. The CEO asked me to thank you." She looked surprised. "Thank me?" The investors complimented the executive floor this morning. They said it felt peaceful and welcoming. A shy smile appeared on her face. "I'm happy they liked it." Mr. Kim smiled. "Your work is making a difference." Before she could respond, he excused himself to prepare for the meeting. Inside the boardroom, Park Ji-hoon confidently presented Myri Holdings' expansion plans. The investors listened carefully. Everything was going perfectly. Mr. Kim's phone vibrated. He glanced at the screen. His face immediately changed. He quietly walked to Ji-hoon's side. "Sir." Ji-hoon noticed his expression. "What is it?" Mr. Kim lowered his voice. "Our security team has reported suspicious activity." Ji-hoon's eyes narrowed. "What kind of activity?" "A black delivery van has been circling the staff exit for almost an hour. And the same two men have been asking cleaners what time Miss Ifioma usually leaves work." Ji-hoon's expression hardened instantly. "They're not looking for company information. They're looking for her." Without another word, he handed the presentation remote to another executive. "You'll finish the meeting." The directors stared in surprise. "Sir, I'll be back." He walked out without another explanation. Completely unaware of the danger, Ifioma finished her afternoon shift. She changed into a light blue blouse, black trousers, and comfortable white shoes. She picked up her handbag and walked toward the staff exit. The street looked normal. People hurried home. Cars passed by. Nothing seemed unusual. A white delivery truck slowly stopped beside the sidewalk. The side door slid open. Two masked men jumped out. One grabbed her arm. "Come with us!" Fioma screamed. "Help!" She struggled with all her strength. Her handbag fell to the ground. People nearby froze in shock. One man tried to pull her into the van. Another covered her mouth. But Ifioma refused to stop fighting. He kicked. He pushed. She bit the man's hand. He shouted in pain. That exact moment, a black sedan screeched to a stop. The car door flew open. Park Ji-hoon ran toward them. "Let her go." The attackers looked up. One recognized him. "It's the CEO." The men panicked. One shoved Ifeoma to the ground. The other jumped back into the van. Within seconds, the vehicle sped away into traffic. Ji-hoon rushed to Ifeoma. "Miss Ifeoma." She was shaken. Her hands trembled. But she was conscious. He knelt beside her. "Are you hurt?" She tried to answer. I'm all right." But tears rolled down her face. She had never been so frightened in her life. Ji-hoon gently helped her to her feet. "It's over. You're safe." For the first time since coming to Korea, Ifeoma broke down completely. She quietly cried. Not because she was weak, but because the fear she had held inside finally escaped. Without thinking, Ji-hoon gently placed his suit jacket around her shoulders. "You don't have to be afraid anymore. I'm here." A few minutes later, police officers arrived and secured the area. Witnesses gave statements. Security cameras from nearby buildings were collected. One detective approached Ji-hoon. "Mr. Park, do you know who would target Miss Okeke?" Ji-hoon looked toward the road where the van had disappeared. His answer was calm. "Yes, I believe I do." He didn't mention Director Kang's name. Not yet. Because before accusing anyone, he wanted proof. Across the city, Director Kang received a phone call. The operation failed. His face darkened. "How?" The CEO arrived. Kang slowly stood. His voice became dangerously quiet. "So, he really is willing to risk everything for her." He looked out across the Seoul skyline. "Interesting. If protecting her is his weakness, then I'll make sure that weakness costs him everything." Far away, neither Ji-hoon nor Ifeoma realized that this was no longer a battle over a company. It had become a battle over the people they cared about. And from this day forward, their lives would never be the same. The next morning, sunlight poured into Ifeoma's small apartment. Normally, she woke up with a smile. But after the kidnapping attempt, sleep had been difficult. She knelt beside her bed, opened her Bible, and whispered a quiet prayer. "Lord, thank you for protecting me yesterday. Please continue to watch over my family. Amen." Just as she stood up, her phone began to ring. The screen displayed a familiar name. Mama Redheart. A warm smile appeared on her face. She quickly answered, "Good morning, Mama." But instead of hearing her mother's cheerful voice, she heard crying. Her heart immediately sank. "Mama, what happened?" Her mother struggled to speak. "My daughter. Someone came to our house yesterday." Fioma froze. "What?" "They asked about you. They knew your name. They knew you worked in Korea." Her hands began to tremble. "What did they want?" "They didn't say. They only warned us to tell you. To stay away from a powerful man." Tears filled Ifeoma's eyes. "Mama. Are you all safe?" "Yes. But we're frightened." Your younger brother gently took the phone. "Big sis. Don't worry about us. I've already reported it to the local police. We'll stay together until everything is all right." Ifeoma closed her eyes. She knew immediately who was behind it. Director Kang. He had reached across the ocean. An hour later, she arrived at Myri Holdings. Although she tried to hide her emotions, Park Ji-hoon noticed something was wrong the moment she stepped onto the executive floor. He quietly walked toward her. "Miss Ifeoma." She forced a smile. "Good morning, sir." He looked at her carefully. "You've been crying." She lowered her head. "I received a call from Nigeria. My family was threatened." Ji-hoon's face immediately hardened. "They contacted your family." She nodded slowly. "They told my mother to warn me. To stay away from a powerful man." Silence filled the hallway. Ji-hoon clenched his fists. Director Kong had crossed every limit. He wasn't attacking a company anymore. He was attacking innocent people. Inside the CEO's office, Mr. Kim listened carefully as Ji-hoon explained everything. When he finished, Mr. Kim sighed heavily. This has gone too far. Ji-hoon nodded. It ends now. What are your orders, sir? Ji-hoon walked to the window. His voice was calm, but filled with determination. Contact the police. Contact our legal team. And hire a reputable security company to quietly protect Miss Ifeoma's family in Nigeria. Mr. Kim looked surprised. Even overseas. Yes. They became targets because of me. I will not abandon them. Understood, sir. Later that afternoon, Ji-hoon found Ifeoma standing alone on the rooftop garden, looking out over the city. The breeze gently moved her natural black hair. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Ji-hoon stood beside her. I'm sorry. She shook her head. You've apologized enough. He looked at the skyline. I made myself a promise the night you saved my life. If I ever found you, I would make sure no harm came to you. He turned toward her. I failed. Ifeoma looked directly into his eyes. No. You came yesterday. You saved me. If you hadn't arrived. She couldn't finish the sentence. Ji-hoon spoke softly. From this moment forward, you won't face this alone. For the first time, he wasn't speaking as the CEO of Myri Holdings. He was speaking as a man who cared deeply about her. Ifeoma felt her heart race. She had tried so hard to keep a professional distance. But standing beside him, she realized it was becoming harder each day to ignore what she truly felt. Across the city, Director Kong received another report. Boss, the CEO has increased security. Kong smiled coldly. Good. The more he protects her, the more distracted he'll become. He picked up another folder. This one contained confidential documents about Myri Holdings' upcoming shareholder meeting. The time has come. We won't attack his heart anymore. We'll attack his company. He closed the file. And when everything begins to collapse, he'll have to choose. Saving his empire. Or saving the woman he loves. The countdown had begun. And neither Park Ji-hoon nor Ifeoma knew that the biggest battle of their lives was only days away. 3 days later, the atmosphere inside Myri Holdings was unlike anything anyone had ever experienced. Television cameras lined the front entrance. Business reporters stood outside with microphones. Luxury cars arrived one after another. It was the day of the annual shareholders meeting. A single decision made inside that conference hall could determine the future of the entire company. On the executive floor, Ifeoma quietly arranged fresh white orchids in the reception area. Although she wasn't part of the meeting, she could feel the tension in the air. Every employee seemed nervous. Mr. Kim walked past her carrying several important files. He paused for a moment. Miss Ifeoma. Yes, sir. Today may be difficult. She looked concerned. Is everything all right? He forced a small smile. The CEO has many people hoping he fails. Before Ifeoma could ask another question, Mr. Kim hurried away. She looked toward the boardroom doors and whispered a silent prayer. Lord, please give him wisdom. Protect him. And let justice prevail. She didn't realize those simple words would soon be answered. Inside the boardroom, more than 50 shareholders filled the grand hall. Park Ji-hoon stood confidently at the front. Composed, confident. He welcomed everyone before beginning his presentation. Our company has faced many challenges this year, but we have also built a stronger foundation for the future. Several shareholders nodded in agreement. The conference doors suddenly opened. Everyone turned. Director Kong walked in. A slow smile spread across his face. Am I late? The room instantly became tense. One shareholder whispered. I thought he had been removed from the company. Another replied. He still owns shares. Kong calmly took his seat. Then he stood again. Before this meeting continues, I have something every shareholder deserves to see. He signaled to one of his assistants. Projector switched on. The first photograph appeared. It showed Park Ji-hoon walking under one umbrella with Ifeoma. Another photograph appeared. Ji-hoon handing her a cup of tea. Another. The two of them talking in the company library. Another. Ji-hoon helping her after the kidnapping attempt. Gasps filled the room. Whispers spread instantly. Director Kong folded his arms. Our CEO claims every decision he makes is for the company. But perhaps his decisions are being influenced by personal feelings. Several board members exchanged uneasy glances. The accusations hung heavily in the room. Ji-hoon remained completely calm. He didn't interrupt. He didn't raise his voice. He simply waited until Kong had finished. He slowly walked to the center of the room. If you're suggesting that I misused company funds, present your evidence. Kong smiled. I'm suggesting your judgment has been compromised. Ji-hoon nodded once. My judgment. He looked around the room. Let's discuss judgment. When an innocent employee was falsely accused, I insisted on waiting for evidence. When that same employee became the target of criminals, I cooperated fully with the police. I protected a member of this company. He paused. I would do exactly the same for any employee of Myri Holdings. The room became silent. One elderly shareholder slowly stood. He had served the company for over 30 years. He looked directly at Kong. Director Kong, can you prove the CEO acted illegally? Kang's smile faded. No. Can you prove he stole company money? No. Can you prove he violated company policy? No. The elderly shareholder nodded. Then all you've presented are photographs of a CEO showing humanity. Several shareholders quietly applauded. Others nodded in agreement. For the first time that morning, Director Kong realized his plan was beginning to fall apart. Outside the boardroom, Ifeoma had unknowingly overheard part of the meeting while delivering refreshments. She heard enough to understand one painful truth. Park Ji-hoon was being attacked. Because of her. Tears filled her eyes. She quietly placed the tray on a nearby table. No, she whispered. I can't let him lose everything because of me. That moment, a difficult decision formed in her heart. One that could change both of their lives forever. Turn, walked toward the elevator, and silently prepared to make the greatest sacrifice she had ever made. To be continued. The shareholders' meeting continued upstairs. But Ifeoma could no longer hear the voices. Her mind was racing. Every step she took toward the staff office felt heavier than the last. She closed the door behind her. The small room was quiet. She sat at the desk where employees completed daily reports. A blank sheet of paper lay before her. For several minutes, she simply stared at it. Then, with trembling hands, she began to write. To Park Ji-hoon, thank you for believing in me when almost everyone else doubted me. Thank you for protecting me when my life was in danger. And thank you for reminding me that kindness still exists in this world. 'Cause of me, your reputation has been questioned. Your leadership has been challenged. Your enemies have found another way to attack you. I cannot allow that to continue. Please don't look for me. This is my decision. I will resign from Myri Holdings today. I sincerely pray that your company continues to grow and that your life is filled with peace. Please, take care of yourself. Ifeoma Okeke. A single tear landed on the paper. She quietly folded the letter, placed it inside an envelope, and wrote only 4 words on the front. Forseo Park Ji-hoon. That same moment, sirs, the shareholders' meeting came to an end. Park Ji-hoon had successfully defended his leadership. Most of the shareholders left impressed by his calmness and integrity. As the room emptied, Mr. Kim hurried inside. Sir. The meeting was a success. Ji-hoon smiled faintly. Good. But. Mr. Kim hesitated. I can't find Miss Ifeoma. Ji-hoon's smile disappeared. What do you mean? She isn't on the executive floor. Her phone is switched off. And. Mr. Kim slowly handed him a white envelope. This was left on your desk. Ji-hoon immediately recognized the handwriting. His heart sank. He opened the letter. The more he read, the paler his face became. When he reached the final line, he quietly closed his eyes. For the first time in years, he felt completely helpless. Without another word, he stood. Mr. Kim. Yes, sir. Lock down every company exit. Check every security camera. I want to know exactly when Miss Ifeoma left this building. Mr. Kim nodded immediately. Right away, sir. Outside the company, Ifeoma walked alone toward the subway station. She had made up her mind. If leaving is what it takes to protect him, then that's what I'll do. She wiped away another tear. She loved working at Myri Holdings. She admired Park Ji-hoon more than she wanted to admit. The love sometimes asks people to make painful choices. She believed this was one of them. 15 minutes later, the security team located her on a nearby CCTV camera. Sir. Mr. Kim rushed into the CEO's office. We found her. She's walking toward Hongang Riverside Park. Before Mr. Kim could say another word, Park Ji-hoon was already running. He ignored the waiting reporters. He ignored the flashing cameras. He ignored the questions being shouted at him. Nothing else mattered. Not the company. Not the headlines. Not his reputation. The only thing on his mind was finding Ifeoma before she disappeared from his life. As Ifeoma stood quietly by the Han River, watching the water shimmer beneath the evening sun, she heard hurried footsteps behind her. A familiar voice, breathless and filled with emotion, called out, Ifeoma, for the first time. He didn't call her Miss Okeke. He simply called her by her name. She slowly turned around. Their eyes met. And in that single moment, both of them realized that their lives would never be the same again. The evening breeze swept gently across the Han River. The golden light of the setting sun reflected on the calm water. People walked by. Couples laughed. Children rode bicycles. Yet to Park Ji-hoon and Ifeoma, it felt as though the entire world had disappeared. Only the two of them remained. Ji-hoon slowly walked toward her. His breathing was still heavy from running. He held the resignation letter tightly in his hand. Ifeoma. She lowered her eyes. I'm sorry. He shook his head. No. You don't get to apologize. She looked surprised. He continued. Do you know how frightened I was when I couldn't find you? She remained silent. I thought I had lost you. Tears gathered in her eyes. I only wanted to protect you. She spoke softly. If I stay, Director Kong will continue using me to attack you. He'll attack your company, your reputation, everything you've worked for. I can't allow that. Ji-hoon took another step closer. Ifeoma. Look at me. Lily. She lifted her head. Their eyes met. You believe leaving will solve this? She nodded. Yes. It won't. She frowned slightly. If you leave today, Director Kong wins. He wants to isolate us. He wants fear to control our decisions. If you resign because of him, then you've given him exactly what he wants. She stood quietly, thinking about his words. For the first time, she saw the situation from a different perspective. Ji-hoon looked down at the letter in his hand. He slowly tore it into 2 pieces, then into 4, then into many small pieces. The torn paper fluttered gently into a nearby recycling bin. I refuse to accept your resignation. Ifeoma stared at him. You tore it. He smiled. Yes. You still have a job tomorrow. A small laugh escaped her lips through her tears. It was the first time she had laughed all day. Seeing her smile, Ji-hoon's heart felt lighter. After a moment of silence, he spoke again. There is something else I've been keeping inside. His voice became quieter. I told myself it was only gratitude. Then I told myself it was responsibility. But I've been lying to myself. Ifeoma's heart began to beat faster. Ji-hoon looked directly into her eyes. The truth is, every morning I look forward to seeing your smile. When something good happens, you're the first person I want to tell. And when you were almost taken from me, I realized how empty my life would be without you. He paused. Ifeoma, I've fallen in love with you. The world around them seemed to stand still. The breeze, the river, the sounds of the city, everything faded. Only those words remained. Tears rolled gently down Ifeoma's cheeks. She had imagined this moment countless times. Yet now that it had happened, she struggled to find the words. Ji-hoon. It was the first time she had ever called him by his name. He smiled softly. I was beginning to think you'd never do that. She laughed through her tears. Then her expression became serious. I've been trying to ignore my feelings. Because you're my CEO. Because our worlds are so different. Because I was afraid. She took a deep breath. But the truth is, I've fallen in love with you too. For a moment, neither of them moved. They simply smiled at one another. Not because every problem had disappeared, but because at last, neither of them had to hide the truth. As then, Ji-hoon's phone rang. Mr. Kim. He answered immediately. Sir. We have urgent news. The police have located Director Kong. But he escaped before officers arrived. Ji-hoon's expression changed instantly. And there's something else. What is it? He left a message. Ji-hoon's face grew serious. What message? Mr. Kim's voice came through clearly. He said, enjoy tonight. Because tomorrow everything you love will be taken away. The happiness of the moment vanished. Ji-hoon looked at Ifeoma. She looked back at him. Without saying a word, they both understood. Their greatest challenge had not ended. It was only just beginning. The next morning, Seoul woke beneath a gray sky. Rain clouds drifted slowly across the city. Inside Myri Holdings, security had doubled overnight. Uniformed officers stood at every entrance. Plainclothes security personnel quietly monitored the surroundings. No one was taking chances anymore. Park Ji-hoon stood in his office, looking down at the city below. Mr. Kim entered carrying a thick folder. Sir, our security measures are in place. Ji-hoon nodded. And Miss Ifeoma. She arrived safely. For the first time that morning, a small smile crossed Ji-hoon's face. Good. Just then there was a gentle knock on the door. Come in. The door opened. Ifeoma stepped inside. She wore a simple cream blouse with a navy blue skirt and a neatly folded black blazer over her arm. Her natural coily hair was tied into her familiar low bun, and despite everything that had happened, there was quiet determination in her eyes. For a few seconds, neither of them spoke. Then Ji-hoon smiled. You came. Ifeoma smiled back. I promised I'd be here. She walked closer. I thought about everything you said yesterday. And I've decided. I'm not running anymore. Ji-hoon's eyes softened. I won't let fear decide my future. I came to Korea to build a better life for my family. I'm not going to abandon that dream because someone wants to scare me. For a brief moment, Ji-hoon simply looked at her with admiration. That's exactly the answer I hoped you'd give. Later that morning, Ji-hoon called an emergency meeting with every department manager. The room was filled with tension. He stood before them. I have something important to say. Everyone listened carefully. Our company has recently faced attacks from people who want to divide us. He paused. I will not allow fear, rumors, or intimidation to define who we are. He looked around the room. From today, every employee of Myri Holdings, whether a cleaner, a receptionist, a driver, an engineer, or an executive, will be treated with equal dignity and respect. The room fell silent. No one will be looked down upon because of their position. No one will be judged because of their nationality. If anyone is harassed or threatened, they will have my full support. Several employees exchanged surprised glances. Some even applauded quietly. Outside the conference room, Ifeoma happened to hear those words. Her eyes became moist. She realized he wasn't speaking only for her. He was changing the culture of the entire company. Across the city, Director Kong watched the live business news. The reporter praised Park Ji-hoon's leadership and mentioned his commitment to protecting every employee. Kong switched off the television in frustration. He slammed the remote onto the table. So, he's turning public opinion in his favor. One of his associates asked nervously. What do we do now, sir? Kong slowly smiled. A king is strongest inside his castle. So, we'll force him to leave it. He opened another file. Inside was the invitation to a prestigious charity gala attended by Korea's most influential business leaders. Park Ji-hoon's name was at the top of the guest list. Kong tapped the invitation with his finger. This is where everything changes. At evening, Ji-hoon walked Ifeoma to the company lobby. As they reached the entrance, he stopped. I have a favor to ask. She looked at him curiously. What is it? He smiled gently. This Saturday, our company is sponsoring a charity gala. I'd like you to come as my guest. Ifeoma's eyes widened. Me? Ji-hoon nodded. I know people will talk, but I'm tired of living my life based on other people's opinions. He smiled warmly. I simply want to spend one evening with the woman I love. Ifeoma lowered her eyes shyly. A soft smile spread across her face. I've never been to a gala before. Ji-hoon chuckled. Then let's make your first one unforgettable. But neither of them noticed. From a parked car across the street, someone lowered a pair of binoculars. A quiet voice spoke into a phone. Boss. They accepted the invitation. Director Kong smiled coldly. Excellent. Prepare everything. By the end of that gala, Park Ji-hoon will lose far more than his reputation. The trap had been set. And the biggest night of their lives was only 2 days away. Saturday morning. The city of Seoul sparkled beneath a clear blue sky. For most people, it was just another weekend. But for Ifeoma, it would become one of the most unforgettable days of her life. She arrived at Myri Holdings just before noon. Mr. Kim was already waiting for her in the reception lobby. He smiled warmly. Good afternoon, Miss Ifeoma. Good afternoon, sir. The CEO asked me to bring you somewhere. She looked confused. Somewhere? Yes. Please don't worry. It's a surprise. Although she was curious, she nodded politely. I'll come with you. 30 minutes later, the car stopped in front of one of Seoul's most elegant fashion studios. Ifeoma stared through the window. Sir, I think there's been a mistake. Mr. Kim smiled. There hasn't. The CEO reserved the entire studio. Her eyes widened. For me? Yes. She immediately shook her head. Oh no. I can't accept something this expensive. Mr. Kim had expected that answer. He smiled. Miss Ifeoma. CEO Park gave me specific instructions. What instructions? He said. Tell her this isn't about expensive clothes. It's about making sure she feels confident enough to enjoy one special evening. Ifeoma remained silent. She slowly smiled. If that's truly his reason, I'll accept. Inside the studio, several designers welcomed her warmly. They showed her different evening gowns. Elegant black, royal blue, emerald green, soft gold. Ifeoma admired them all. But one dress immediately caught her attention. It was a simple deep emerald green gown. Elegant, graceful, beautiful without being flashy. She gently touched the fabric. "It's beautiful." One of the designers smiled. "It suits your complexion perfectly." Another nodded. "It brings out the warmth in your eyes." After trying it on, everyone in the room became silent. Even Ifeoma hardly recognized herself. Her rich dark brown skin glowed beautifully against the emerald fabric. Her natural beauty needed almost no makeup. Her hair was styled into a graceful low bun with a few soft curls framing her face. She looked into the mirror, not with pride, but with quiet gratitude. She whispered, "Thank you, Lord." At the same time, across the city, Park Ji-hoon was being fitted for his tuxedo. One of the tailors smiled. "You seem happier these days, sir." Ji-hoon smiled faintly. "I suppose I am." Mr. Kim's phone vibrated. He looked at the message and smiled. "Sir, Miss Ifeoma has chosen her dress." Ji-hoon looked up. "Does she like it?" Mr. Kim nodded. "Very much." Ji-hoon quietly smiled to himself. "I can't wait to see her." In an abandoned warehouse, Director Kong stood before four men dressed in black suits. He placed photographs of the charity gala on the table. "This is tonight's venue." One man asked, "What exactly do you want us to do?" Kong looked at the photographs of Park Ji-hoon and Ifeoma. "I don't want chaos. I want humiliation." He pointed to Ifeoma's picture. "Make sure every camera in that ballroom captures her." The men looked confused. "No violence." "Not yet." Kong smiled coldly. "Sometimes a lie told in front of hundreds of people is more destructive than a weapon." He closed the folder. "Tonight, the entire country will believe that Park Ji-hoon has betrayed everything his company stands for." As evening approached, the ballroom lights slowly came alive. Luxury cars began arriving. Business leaders, celebrities, diplomats, reporters, television cameras. Everyone gathered for one of Seoul's most prestigious charity events. Standing backstage, Ifeoma took a deep breath. She had never imagined that a young woman who once worried about paying rent would one day attend an event like this. She heard familiar footsteps. She turned around. Park Ji-hoon stood in the doorway, dressed in a perfectly tailored black tuxedo. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Ji-hoon simply looked at her. Then he smiled. A genuine smile. "You look beautiful." Ifeoma blushed. "Thank you. You look very handsome." Before either of them could say another word, the master of ceremonies announced, "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome CEO Park Ji-hoon of Myri Holdings." Ji-hoon offered his arm. "Shall we?" Ifeoma smiled nervously. "Yes." Together, they stepped toward the ballroom doors, completely unaware that dozens of hidden cameras and Director Kang's carefully planned trap were waiting on the other side. To be continued. The grand ballroom doors slowly opened. A wave of soft classical music filled the air. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead. Round tables decorated with white roses stretched across the magnificent hall. Nearly 500 guests turned toward the entrance. Business leaders, government officials, international investors, journalists, television cameras. For one brief moment, the entire ballroom became silent. Park Ji-hoon entered first. Confident, elegant in his perfectly tailored black tuxedo. Beside him walked Ifeoma Okeke. Her emerald green gown flowed gracefully as she walked. Her rich dark brown skin glowed beneath the warm lights. Her natural beauty needed no extravagant jewelry. Her calm smile and quiet confidence spoke louder than anything money could buy. One reporter whispered, "Who is she?" Another replied, "I don't know, but she's absolutely stunning." Camera flashes filled the room. Blick, blick, blick. Across the ballroom, Director Kong watched with narrowed eyes. He had expected whispers. He had expected criticism. Does it? People couldn't stop admiring her. His jaw tightened. This isn't how it was supposed to happen. One of his associates leaned closer. Boss, should we continue with the plan? Kang's eyes never left Ji-hoon and Ifeoma. Yes. Wait for the right moment. The event host stepped onto the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight, we gather not only to celebrate generosity, but also to raise funds for orphan children and families in need. Applause filled the hall. After several speeches, the host smiled warmly. We would now like to invite Seo Park Ji-hoon to say a few words. Ji-hoon walked confidently onto the stage. He thanked the organizers. He spoke about responsibility, about leadership, about using success to serve others. The audience applauded enthusiastically. Before leaving the stage, he paused. I'd like to introduce someone. The room became quiet again. Ji-hoon looked toward Ifeoma. Miss Ifeoma, would you join me? She looked completely surprised. Me? He nodded encouragingly. The audience watched as she slowly walked onto the stage. She looked nervous. Her hands trembled slightly. Ji-hoon smiled reassuringly. You'll be fine. He turned to the audience. Many people measure greatness by titles. Or by wealth. I've learned to measure it differently. He looked at Ifeoma with quiet admiration. This remarkable woman reminds me every day that kindness, humility, and integrity are qualities that cannot be bought. The ballroom fell silent. She has shown courage when others chose fear. She has chosen forgiveness when others spread rumors. And she has reminded me that every person deserves dignity, regardless of their position. Many guests nodded thoughtfully. Some quietly applauded. Ifeoma felt tears gathering in her eyes. She had never imagined standing before such a distinguished audience. Ji-hoon looked at her gently. Would you like to say something? She hesitated, then stepped toward the microphone. She took a deep breath. My name is Ifeoma Okeke. I came to Korea from Nigeria with a dream. To work honestly. To support my family. And to make them proud. She smiled softly. I've learned that kindness speaks every language. It doesn't matter where we come from. It doesn't matter what job we do. When we treat one another with respect, we become richer as human beings. The ballroom erupted into heartfelt applause. Several guests stood to their feet. Even some reporters lowered their cameras to clap. Watching from the side of the stage, Mr. Kim smiled proudly. He quietly whispered, "She belongs here." But hidden among the guests, a waiter wearing a white serving uniform reached into his pocket. He quietly removed a small flash drive. Without attracting attention, he slipped it into the ballroom's presentation computer. A cold smile appeared on his face. He whispered into a tiny earpiece, "Boss, it's done." Across the room, Director Kong smiled. "Excellent." He slowly looked toward the giant projection screen hanging above the stage. In exactly 1 minute, the whole country will witness the beginning of Park Ji-hoon's downfall. Unaware of the danger, Ji-hoon and Ifeoma smiled at one another as the applause continued. Neither of them knew that the happiest moment of their lives was only seconds away from becoming their greatest test. The applause slowly faded. Ifeoma and Park Ji-hoon stepped down from the stage together. The atmosphere inside the ballroom was warm and joyful. Guests continued praising the inspiring speeches. Without warning, the giant projection screen flickered. Once. Then the lights dimmed. The audience looked up in confusion. What is happening? A slideshow suddenly appeared. Photographs of Park Ji-hoon and Ifeoma filled the massive screen. Images of them sharing an umbrella, talking in the company library, walking together through the company garden. The room fell silent. Whispers spread from table to table. Director Kong smiled to himself. Now, watch everything fall apart. The next image appeared. Then another. But something unexpected happened. Instead of scandalous photographs, the screen displayed security footage from the night of the kidnapping attempt. The ballroom watched in stunned silence. The video clearly showed masked men trying to force Ifeoma into a van. Park Ji-hoon rushed into the frame, risking his own safety to rescue her. Gasps echoed throughout the hall. A reporter whispered, "That's not a romantic scandal. That's an attempted kidnapping." The next clip appeared. Police officers arriving at the scene. Emergency lights flashing. Witnesses giving statements. The audience's expressions changed completely. Director Kong frowned. "No. That's not the file I prepared." His assistant looked terrified. "Boss. I don't understand." Then the final video began. It was a recorded statement from the lead police investigator. "Ladies and gentlemen, this footage is part of an active criminal investigation. Our investigation indicates that the attempted kidnapping of Miss Ifeoma Okeke was carefully planned. We are also investigating evidence connecting individuals associated with former Director Kong." The ballroom exploded with shocked voices. "What? Director Kong? Is this true?" Television cameras instantly turned away from Ji-hoon and pointed toward Kong. For the first time that night, fear appeared in Kang's eyes. Mr. Kim quietly smiled. One of the IT managers approached him. "Sir, we intercepted the hacker's attempt." Mr. Kim nodded. "And we replaced Director Kang's presentation with evidence already approved for public release by the police." Mr. Kim smiled. "Excellent work." The trap had been turned against its creator. Suddenly, several police officers entered the ballroom. The lead detective walked directly toward Director Kong. "Director Kong, you are under arrest on suspicion of conspiracy, attempted kidnapping, obstruction of justice, and other related offenses." The room fell completely silent. Kong laughed bitterly. "You think this is over?" The detective calmly replied. "No. I think it's just beginning." The officers placed him in handcuffs. As they escorted him toward the exit, Kong stopped. He slowly turned to face Ji-hoon and Ifeoma. His eyes burned with hatred. "This isn't the end. I'll make sure you both regret this." The detective firmly guided him forward. "You can save that statement for the courtroom." The ballroom doors closed behind them. For the first time in months, the shadow hanging over Myri Holdings began to disappear. The audience slowly stood. One person started clapping. Another joined. The entire ballroom erupted into a standing ovation. Not because a businessman had won. Not because a criminal had been arrested. But because truth, honesty, and courage had prevailed. Park Ji-hoon looked at Ifeoma. She smiled through tears. "You were right." He smiled gently. "About what?" She laughed softly. "The truth really doesn't stop being the truth, just because people refuse to believe it." Ji-hoon nodded. "And goodness always finds its way into the light." As the applause echoed through the grand ballroom, neither of them realized their greatest battle had finally ended, but their greatest journey together was only just beginning. 3 weeks later, autumn had begun to paint Seoul in shades of gold and crimson. The crisis surrounding Myri Holdings had finally come to an end. Director Kong remained in police custody while prosecutors continued building their case. For the first time in many months, the company was peaceful. Employees smiled again. The whispers had disappeared. And every morning, the executive floor was filled with quiet laughter. One Monday morning, Ifeoma arrived earlier than usual. As she walked through the lobby, something immediately caught her attention. A large banner hung near the reception desk. It read, Every role matters. Every employee deserves respect. She stopped in her tracks. Several cleaners gathered around it. One elderly janitor smiled. I've worked here for 22 years. I never thought I'd see something like this. Another cleaner added. The CEO personally approved this campaign. Ifeoma smiled quietly. She knew exactly why. Ji-hoon hadn't simply defeated Director Kong. He had changed the company's culture. Later that morning, all employees received an invitation to a company-wide gathering. The auditorium was completely full. Executives sat beside receptionists. Engineers sat beside cleaners. Drivers sat beside department managers. There were no special sections. No invisible walls. Only one company. Park Ji-hoon stepped onto the stage. The audience applauded warmly. He smiled. When I became CEO, I believed success was measured only by profits. He paused. I was wrong. The room became silent. I've learned that the strength of a company isn't found in its tallest building. It's found in its people. Every employee deserves dignity. Every voice deserves respect. And every honest effort deserves appreciation. Thunderous applause filled the auditorium. Then he made another announcement. Beginning today, Myri Holdings will introduce a new employee education and development program. It will be open to every member of staff, regardless of position. If a cleaner dreams of becoming an administrator, we'll help. If a receptionist dreams of becoming a manager, we'll train them. Talent should never be limited by someone's starting position. The applause grew even louder. Many employees wiped away tears. After the ceremony, Mr. Kim approached Ifeoma. Miss Ifeoma. Yes, sir. The CEO would like to see you. She smiled nervously. I'll come. Inside Ji-hoon's office. He stood beside the window, just as he often did. When she entered, he turned and smiled. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. He handed her a small envelope. She looked puzzled. What's this? Open it. She carefully unfolded the letter. Her eyes widened. It was an official scholarship offer from Myri Holdings. The company would sponsor her evening studies in international business and management while she continued working. She looked up in disbelief. Ji-hoon. I don't know what to say. He smiled warmly. You once told me that every challenge teaches us something. I believe you have much more to achieve. This isn't charity. It's an investment. In someone I believe in. Tears filled her eyes again. You've already done so much for me. He gently shook his head. No. You earned this. Through your honesty. Through your hard work. And through your character. She held the letter close to her heart. I promise. I won't disappoint you. I know you won't. At evening, the two of them walked slowly through a quiet park near the Han River. The leaves drifted gently from the trees. Neither of them rushed to speak. Sometimes, silence between two people who truly understand each other is more meaningful than words. Finally, Ji-hoon stopped walking. He reached into his coat pocket. Ifeoma looked at him curiously. He smiled. Don't worry. It isn't what you think. She laughed softly. You almost scared me. He held out a small velvet box. It was not a ring, but a simple silver pendant. The pendant was shaped like a tiny heart, with two hands gently holding it. I saw this a few days ago. It reminded me of you. She looked at it carefully. It's beautiful. He fastened the pendant around her neck. It represents something. What? That love is strongest when it is protected by kindness. Ifeoma gently touched the pendant. I'll treasure it. They stood together, watching the sunset over the Han River. For the first time, there were no kidnappers, no rumors, no fear, only hope, only peace, and the quiet beginning of a love story that neither of them had expected. But both of them were grateful to have found. Far above the glowing Seoul skyline, the first stars appeared. Their journey was no longer about surviving the past. It was about building a future. Together,